a scary question. Why are so many terrorists flowing across our southern border?
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Conservative Circus with James T. Harris.
This week, the chair of the House Committee on Homeland Security sent a letter to now impeached Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and FBI Director Christopher Wray, demanding documents and briefing pertaining to several individuals with connections to ISIS that were arrested by ICE in New York City, Los Angeles, and Philadelphia this month. All of these suspects reportedly entered the United States through the southwest border, but Customs and Border Protection's limited ability to fully vet and screen those crossings led to all of them being released into the United States. Reportedly, at least one of them made use of the lawful CBP mass parole program. Joining us in the center ring is Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Jasser, a former lieutenant commander in the United States Navy and a past president of Arizona Medical Association, is a vocal foe of radical Islam and Joe Biden and Joe's fellow Democrats, here who are working on his behalf. Dr. Jasser came onto the national and international stage unexpectedly after 9/11, when he stood up as one lone voice calling for reform and eradication of radical Islamist ideology to come from within Islam. He is now a leading figure against radical Islam and a Republican candidate for Congress in CD4. We welcome Dr. Jasser. Doctor, what are the odds that these 8 individuals with ties to ISIS illegally entered the United States for jobs or for a better life?
Completely unlikely. And, as you mentioned, I've been testifying from every mountain I can scream from, beginning in Washington and into our states, to let people know about the fact that we've not been vetting for ideology. You look in Europe, 15%, studies show 15% of those migrating from Syria and revolutions and otherwise have sympathy for ISIS. And yet, in our own country, now that there's millions upon millions that have been let in initially by Obama and now especially by Biden, we have no way to vet them. All they're vetting for is cross-matching them with allegiance or identification with known terror groups. Many of these folks, as we saw in 9/11, as we saw in Fort Hood and From Within, and so many others, are radicalized on our soil. We saw across campuses students that are being radicalized by the Democratic Party that are anti-American, anti-Semitic. So you take that cauldron and you let millions flow in, not from Mexico. They're coming from China, from Middle Eastern countries, and you see these Tajiks that came in. 8 of them were found in L.A., New York, large cities, got into our country, and the odds are just exponential when it's not only just a few hundred coming across. I was one of the few that defended President Trump's ban from countries that we couldn't vet. The far left called it Muslim countries, and I said, no, wait a minute. My parents came here legally, got asylum, and the vast majority of American Muslims that love this country want to come here legally, and it's the illegals that give us a bad name that are destroying this country. And it wasn't a Muslim ban. It was a ban from countries that were the highest risk, and Tajikistan is one of them. So it's just that now finally we're having the House ask questions. Yesterday they put out this memo saying, we want answers. We want to know how these people got let in and what we can do to now start vetting for these ideologies that are just destroying the suicidal operation that the far left is doing with Biden and all his rubber stampers in Congress.
What I don't understand here is you're right. We should be vetting for ideology. What a fantastic idea. So you know who's coming into the country, where they stand, whether they're truly our enemies of the country. But they didn't do that. They had no intentions of doing that. And I thank you for pointing out that, yes, this mass invasion, illegal immigration, started under the Obama administration and continues under the Biden administration. But again, you have known terrorists, you have known ISIS with ties to the massacre that took place in Russia. They're here, and more like them are coming across the border. And it seems to me like Alejandro Mayorkas, other officials don't care.
And, as you talk to neighborhoods, cities across our state, Tempe, Mesa, everywhere, every family is worried about crime that's going up. You see the lists of logs of crimes committed by illegals and folks that shouldn't even be here because they broke the law, came in, didn't wait in line like everybody's waiting for, and ultimately people are coming here because America is that city on a hill, or they're coming here to destroy us. And my family came here because it was a place they could practice their faith and be more free than in anywhere else on the planet. And that light, that beacon for the world of freedom, there are many that are seeking to destroy that. And the left wants to ignore that, wants to actually help aid and assist our enemies so that they can come in. And the Chinas of the world, that red-green axis of the far-left communist parties of the world with the Islamists are rushing in as the gates are open. And we have to seal the border. We have to reclaim congressional authority. We have to intensify vetting. And we did it in the Cold War. And we're still going to miss some, by the way. But in the Cold War, we used to vet for those that had allegiance to the Soviets and communists. And at least we would stop some of the risk, but not all of it. But at this point, we are just so much at the edge of a cliff. We have to fix it this year with reenacting the policies of President Trump and resecuring America.
We have Dr. Zuhdi Jasser in the center ring. He is now the leading figure against radical Islam and a Republican candidate for Congress in CD4. You have been very vocal in your support for Israel, and recently you argued that Hamas and radical Islam has rebranded jihad. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, every time we pass through a unbelievable attack on terror, and you saw October 7 was just equal to 50 to 100 times what America experienced on 9/11. And Israel is a little America. Israel is the head of the spear when it comes to saving the West and protecting what Western principles are. And, we thought that the war was over as we withdrew from Iraq, and then the withdrawal from Afghanistan was just an abysmal failure. It could not have been done more incompetently. Yes, we should have withdrawn, but it could have been done in a way far less incompetently and more of a transfer of control to the Afghanis rather than simply a West leaving with the tail between our legs, as Biden has done. It then empowered Iran. It empowered the brand of jihad to say that the West is weakened. You see our border flowing in, destroying states like Arizona and others with beleaguered crime and drugs and terror. And Israel is fighting the fight of an existential fight for freedom. And we need to defend them. We need to stand by them, and stand by them not only providing support, but also ideologically on campuses and elsewhere, deporting students on visa that support radical terror sympathizers like the Students for Justice in Palestine. And then people need to know, one of the main intelligence officers with the National Security Agency providing information to President Biden is Maher Bittar, who was a former head of the Students for Justice in Palestine at Georgetown. So the current administration, Biden and the rubber stampers, and people like Stanton, by the way, he couldn't even get himself to condemn Rashida Tlaib and censure her as she raised money in our state at ASU for Students for Justice in Palestine, which had on its website a called October 7 a resistance operation. And it's just horrifying as an American who loves my country, and I see what's happening to our state and the threats that we have to see the far left radicalizing and suicidally destroying our country.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, I want to thank you very much for weighing in on this issue. And I mean, I would love to. I would love to have someone like that. Look, here's a guy who's Muslim, and he's saying, look, you need to have these people vetted. You need to ask the right questions, because they're radical and they're not here for jobs and for a better life. They're here to kill Americans. Hello? Again, he's running for Congress, CD4.
He's clearly under